Hi. Today I am very excited to walk you through how to Uberize your sales teams and your sales organizations. My name is Tom Cox. I am the Director of Sales Operations here at Velocify. And I am in the fortunate position to work on sales strategy and operations each and every day in my role, but also in the space and in the product that we ultimately provide to our customers. And today what I want to particularly focus on is how sales and Uber have many parallels. And for some context, before I dive into the content, I want to first admit that by no means am I the first to use Uber as a case study. And what we've seen is Uber and the sharing economy, there have been hundreds of Uber derivatives. So the industry term is the Uber for X. And there's entire product categories around this Uber for X model, including startups such as HomeJoy, which once provided on-demand laundry service, to a current Uber for X, which is DoorDash, which provides on-demand food delivery. And instead of going down that Uber for X model, what we want to do today was really think about how Uber and what they've done and how they've shaped a whole industry, really understand how that applies to what we're seeing today in the shift in SaaS sales, and especially around the shift moving from more of a field-based sales model to really bringing a lot of that business towards an inside sales model. I'm really excited to walk you through that today. The first core tenet of this content is really around utilization. And it's about becoming more efficient as a sales organization. And when we think about what Uber has done, their whole business and thesis is really driven around this concept of utilization. And this is some research based on by Morgan Stanley of the car. It's an incredibly underutilized asset, 4% utilization. And what Uber's model does, it really takes this utilization gap and increases it in terms of kind of their current network effects model, and then also in terms of what they're doing in the future with driverless cars and really boosting that utilization. And that's a core piece of their business, and it also is a big part of kind of what that movement is in sales. Likewise, this concept of ownership is being completely redefined and reimagined. And it really is closely tied to that utilization where we're seeing that boost in the sharing economy, where Uber is able to take advantage of these changes in ownership. And when we think about really comparing this shift that Uber has undertaken, we compare it to the shift in SaaS sales, there's a really key call-out that we wanted to start with. And that's for Uber, there's benefits on both sides of this network. There's benefits for the driver. Of course, you can own your own business. It's easy to start. There's money in your pocket very quickly. And then, of course, there's benefits for the consumer. So they have their reliability, higher quality, in many cases better price. So you see benefits on both sides of this situation. And likewise, when we see this shift in sales from field to inside, we're also seeing that same concept of benefits on both sides of the equation, where we're seeing on the sales side faster, better onboarding of reps. being able to scale your organization faster, bringing a more predictable SaaS revenue and building a more predictable business, and also value to the buyer. So really enabling the buyer to make their purchases on their own terms and engage in the fashion that they want to engage with. And when we think about that utilization piece, and we look at the data in the SaaS sales industry, it's not quite as low as the car, which is at 4%, but it's very clear to many of us in the industry that reps aren't fully engaged or fully utilized. And there's definitely room for improvement. And what we're seeing is that there's an opportunity to build this improvement in utilization through this paradigm shift from field to sales. And specifically, when we look about kind of the old rules versus this new paradigm and what that entails, there's really three key core concepts. The first being physical location is becoming more and more irrelevant in this sales process. The second is this hybridization of roles and specifying and becoming incredibly efficient in how you structure your organizations. And then third, territories are becoming less dominant, and particularly, again, the geo-based territories. And there's some really innovative activity that's happening of how you segment each of your reps' core business. And there's some really exciting things that are happening. So let's first start with the physical location piece. And in Uber, we all know that a part of the beauty is that there's that consistent, high-quality experience, that customer experience, whether you're here in LA, where we're based in Blocksby, or if you go to Mexico City, or if you go to Amsterdam or London, it's that same experience for the customer. And when you think about that shift to inside, you're also getting that same high-quality experience, incredibly consistent, and also being able to engage with this new age buyer in this Sales 2.0 process of engaging how they want to engage, whether it's phone, email, LinkedIn. So really some key benefits there. And that leads really nicely to this specialization piece. And much like how Uber developed, I'm sure you all know, but they started with the kind of core line of business, Uber Black or Black Car, and then they expanded out to Uber X, which was a more affordable option, and then Uber SUV. And so having those different options and really filling that value and letting ultimately the buyers make the decision of how and when they want to engage. And when we think about how this particularly applies to this paradigm shift in sales that we've been seeing occur over time, that there's really this focus on role specification. In particular, there's four types of roles that we're seeing emerge. The first is around handling inbound leads, so typically marketing-generated leads. And the impetus is really around the speed to engagement. In this role we call typically lead development reps. There's some other terms as well. The second is about outbound prospecting. So we're seeing this revitalization of outbound prospecting. And typically they're working in really the best practices around account-based selling and seeing that emerge. And then the two other components are around this inside sales closer model, where we're seeing their quota carrying, and there's some really amazing innovation happening there. And then fourth, is the field AE model, is really it's a hybrid model. It's still there, and it's changing, and having that named account-based approach is really exciting. Now, that really leads nicely into this next piece of around territories becoming less dominant, and particularly geo-based territories. So in the old paradigm, you would have, say, someone here potentially in a very rich patch of Southern California, and they have a plethora of inbound leads. But perhaps you have another rep in Iowa or perhaps a smaller geography who have less volume. And so what we're seeing is a lot of innovation happening where instead of this rigid geo-territory-based model, concepts like round robin, which is a round robin even distribution of leads. And we're seeing up to 3x conversion in some of our own customers who are moving towards this more round robin, even low distribution model. And with that being said, when we frame this picture up of kind of what's happening in this territory change, it really is all about basing it on what your customer needs. And so from the beginning, you have a typical org structure. You may have some name-based account selling model that you've developed. There's also now this round-robin approach to do the load balancing. And then third, I want to call this out, is really moving towards what we call our performance-based distribution model. And this is all about getting the right lead to the right rep at the right time. And it's kind of the next evolution of where the industry is going. And when you think about that performance-based distribution, we're seeing some really interesting breakthroughs in terms of the metrics, especially around the speed to call and the speed to contact. So being able to engage with those inbound leads very quickly and effectively, and of course, having that help drive your conversion rates. Now, the second core tenet of what we're seeing between the shift in Uber and the shift in sales, the SaaS sales in particular, is around control and convenience. And really what we mean by that is there's three pieces. One, buyers are more educated than ever. They're coming typically to your sales organization already have done quite a bit of research about your product, about the industry, and that's super important in terms of where the industry is going. The second is, again, we've harped on this, but engaging on the buyer's terms, how and when they want to engage. And then third, it's this concept of there's always a next best activity for your reps to be doing, and really how to handle that in this modern era. And for the first piece, it's really that the buyers is much more self-educated. And just to share my own story, we at Velocify have invested in a number of new tools for our own sales technology stack. Just the amount of research and data out there on G2 Crowd, you can read reviews, you can see rankings, you can see other customer feedback, product feedback. There's even, you can go see demos on YouTube on your own to really get a sense of what those products are before we even engage with which products we wanted to start, which companies we wanted to potentially partner with. So really the customer today is incredibly self-educated. The next piece is engaging, much like Uber, where and when the seller wants to engage it. And that ultimately then is going to have an impact on your sales reps, because at any given time there may be 15 different activities that they may have an option for, whether it's, I've got to schedule this event, I've got to attend this event, I need to respond to this email, I need to get this contract out. Oh, look, I just got a notification someone opened my email. Maybe this is a good time to respond. And so what we know is that our best reps and the best sales organizations that we've worked with have a methodology, right? They have an engagement strategy. And it's really about how do we create that prioritized approach that can really transform your overall business. And I think of this as really putting your CRM to use. And we see some really great results in terms of taking that prioritized view. Now, the final piece in this transition that we've seen Uber lead in the sharing economy, and what we've really now seen with this shift in kind of sales 2.0, if you may, is how important data has become. And I like to think really of companies who led this shift, like HubSpot and Zendesk, really industry leaders in the space for really using data to become smarter, to have their sales and marketing machines work more closely and in tandem. And when we look at Uber, they've completely transformed the way data can be used. And a really interesting story here is Uber partnered with the urban planners and city officials in Boston. And they were able to use the ride data and the route data to then improve traffic and the flow of congestion and even public design spacing. And this is, I think, a really exciting time and a really amazing analogy for what's happening in sales. And when you think about, 5 years ago, or 10 years, 5 years ago, it was about you have a helicopter and you had to, look at the traffic congestion or an accident. But today, everything is real time and it's based on data. And that's really, I think, how, when we think about this analogy for sales, again, putting your CRM to use, because everything is data-driven. It's event-driven. There are logs. You're getting value day one. And then ultimately, it's about then sharing that data and working collaboratively with your marketing team and being able to feed that data back and forth with your marketing automation tool to understand which are your best leads, which are you engaging with the fastest, which are converting at the highest rate, really building this integrated workflow so that you have real-time data that you're making smarter and better decisions with. It's not so much of, okay, 6 months later we can look back and figure out, okay, how did we perform? It's really real time, and it's just an amazing kind of evolution of where we are in the industry. And then lastly, Uber, we've seen the penetration. This was kind of the headline grabber of now outnumbering yellow cabs in New York City. But really what I wanted to call out here was, Uber in the sharing economy and this new era is here to stay in much the same way where we have this new era of kind of shifting from predominantly field to now this inside model, which has the value of the higher utilization rates, better control and convenience, and then of course the power of data to improve your sales organization. So if you want to download this white paper or this PDF of the slides, please do so at Velocify. And now we're going to go in to see if we have any questions from the audience. Okay, so it looks like we have kind of the first question here is, can you explain more on the role, specialization on the SDR and inside sales? And so what we've seen is really about our kind of the breakout of LDRs versus BDRs. And so maybe starting with the LDRs. LDRs handling this large volume of inbound leads. So many organizations have, including our own, thousands of leads each month, whether it's events, webinars, from our website, from get a demo forms, and handling that inbound to make sure that we have, I would say, one, the speed to contact. When we think about even just the most important metrics, especially on the lead side, is about the speed to engagement. You see 4x improvements or over 4x improvements in conversion rates if you're able to engage within a quick time frame. So having that as a specialized role can bring a ton of value to your organization. The second piece is on the BDRs, and really this whole, and there could be a whole, we actually did a whole webinar on account-based selling for this BDR role, which is super important, but it's about targeting those accounts and having a clear strategy of why you're targeting those accounts, and then really partnering with sales and marketing to have the right content to engage with that right account. It may be based on a product segment, an industry segment, a size, or a whole combination of each. And then the second layer of that BDR role is not just the account knowledge and the industry knowledge, but really then the next level is the persona level. So to use an example for us, because we sell to SaaS B2B companies, it's really, we look at a number of personas. We look at the VP of sales. We look at that usually the head of marketing. We look at demand gen. We look at sales development management. And then, of course, we look at the sales operations persona. So we have these personas built out for this particular account-based selling strategy model, and then really empowering our BDRs to engage with the right persona and account in the best fashion. And then, quickly, the inside, there's a number of ways to do it, whether it's on, again, product, perhaps size. We've seen there's potentially a SMB, there could be a mid-market team, and so forth. So that's really how we think about segmenting. Okay, so let's do a few more questions here. Okay, so this question is, so who has software to actually Uberize an operation? In other words, to connect customers with providers of a service as quickly as Uber. Okay, so obviously in this space, I would say one of the key aspects has been the growth of marketing automation. So I see it as an evolution of, one, kind of the establishment of the concept of a CRM. And then you had really the growth of marketing automation. And then third, I think connecting those two are technologies like sales acceleration platforms. So, of course, that's what we do at Velocify. But those three components, I think, are really the ways software has enabled us to Uberize an operation. So let's see, any other questions? So we said, do you find noise conflict with this approach? So I think what that means is, do we have conflict with this transition in the Sales 2.0 model of more insight? And what we've found and what we actually do internally is we haven't gone completely away with the field model. We think there's still absolutely value with having a strategic named account, account-based selling model, which we briefly spoke about, where you have targeted enterprise accounts that is delivered by the marketing team, that our executive team, our whole company is aligned that this set of customers or this set of prospects would become fantastic customers and targeting them. So having that, and then of course the hybrid approach of then segmenting your, having then an inside team in tandem with that, I think can kind of be a best of both worlds and what we've seen out there. And then it looks like we have some other commentary on what else could be Uberized. So thanks for sharing, which is really great feedback. And then I'll just hold if we have any other questions. I've really enjoyed this time with everyone, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, to me individually, us as a company. So I'll give it just one more minute here, and then I think we should be all set. Great. Okay, well, thank you again, everyone. This was really a pleasure, and looking forward to the next webinar. Thank you. I want to first admit that, by no means am I the first to use Uber as a case study. And what we've seen is Uber and the sharing economy, there have been hundreds of Uber derivatives. So the industry term is the Uber for X, and there's entire product categories around this Uber for X model, including startups such as HomeJoy, which once provided on-demand laundry service, to a current Uber for X, which is DoorDash, which provides on-demand food delivery. And instead of going down that Uber for X model, what we want to do today was really think about how Uber and what they've done and how they've shaped a whole industry, really understand how that applies to what we're seeing today in the shift in SaaS sales, and especially around the shift moving from more of a field-based sales model to really bringing a lot of that business towards an inside sales model. I'm really excited to walk you through that today. The first core tenet of this content is really around utilization. And it's about becoming more efficient as a sales organization. And when we think about what Uber has done, their whole business and thesis is really driven around this concept of utilization. And this is some research based on by Morgan Stanley of the car. It's an incredibly underutilized asset, 4% utilization. Hi. Today I am very excited to walk you through how to Uberize your sales teams and your sales organizations. My name is Tom Cox. I am the Director of Sales Operations here at Velocify. And I am in the fortunate position to work on sales strategy and operations each and every day in my role, but also in the space and in the product that we ultimately provide to our customers. And today, what I want to particularly focus on is how sales and Uber have many parallels. And for some context, before I dive into the content, and what Uber's model does, it really takes this utilization gap and increases it. in terms of kind of their current network effects model, and then also in terms of what they're doing in the future with driverless cars and really boosting that utilization. And that's a core piece of their business, and it also is a big part of kind of what that movement is in sales. Likewise, this concept of ownership is being completely redefined and reimagined. And it really is closely tied to that utilization where we're seeing that boost in the sharing economy, where Uber is able to take advantage of these changes in ownership. And when we think about really comparing this shift that Uber has undertaken, we compare it to the shift in SaaS sales, there's a really key call out that we wanted to start with. And that's for Uber, there's benefits on both sides of this network. There's benefits for the driver. Of course, you can own your own business. It's easy to start. There's money in your pocket very quickly. And then, of course, there's benefits for the consumer. So they have their reliability, higher quality, in many cases, better price. So you see benefits on both sides of this situation. And likewise, when we see this shift in sales from field to inside, we're also seeing that same